Many of the battles represented first by the Digital Millennium Copyright Act in the late 90s, later on by the move towards trusted computing and the effort to embed the same idea in hardware, have to do with trying to tame digital computation and communications networks so that the same model, taking information, encapsulating it in a discrete unit, and selling it remains sustainable. Now, how should we think about this? Is it a good thing or a bad thing that it's becoming harder, maybe impossible, to encapsulate information in discrete units and sell them? The simplistic answer, the answer that you get from Hollywood and the recording industry, is it's a disaster. How will creators ever make money? Before we buy that, we have to remember that music didn't begin with a phonograph, and it won't end with a peer-to-peer network. Theater, narrative, stories didn't begin with copyright or end with it. All information, knowledge, and culture in our society is supported by a diverse set of revenue flows and business models, not only the copyright system. So most of our scientific research, all of our humanities research, is built on a model of education and government funding through universities and non-profits, not at all based on copyright. Most of our classical music today, much of jazz, much of music that is not in roughly the segment of popular music, is based on a combination of public performances and public support. Much of how musicians live is based on live performances. All of these modes of revenue, all of these revenue streams aren't threatened by the destabilization of the copy at all. What's destabilized is the set of business models that depend on the copy as bottleneck, as toll booth. That creates some problems for certain business models. It is far from an impending disaster for our cultural production system. When one tries to think about what the world of artistic creation might look like after the copy, the first thing to remember is that different forms of art and different forms of creative expression have very different cost structures and very different social practices of consumption and appropriation. And so there's no single answer after copyright for all forms of creation. Music, which has been most in the spotlight, is actually relatively cheap to produce in terms of physical capital necessary. The cost of recording or the equipment to record has become much less expensive for relatively high quality. The distribution network now doesn't need millions of copies to be stamped out or hundreds of thousands of copies to be stamped out. Instead, you can distribute on the net. So all of the core costs of music production have gone to a level that artists who care about their music can largely self-fund. With online downloading and PayPal-based payment systems, you begin to see, if not the complete solution, at least the makings or the components of how artists can make a living in this new environment. The thing to remember is that the recording industry has perfected the art of extracting all of the value from the CDs and earlier the records to itself as the marketer and externalizing almost all of the costs and the risk onto the creators. And so in that system, when you suddenly take out the CD, the artists lose relatively little. The recording industry loses a lot. And the battle over the CD is a battle over the recording industry, not over the musician. Music didn't begin with a phonograph, and it won't end with a peer-to-peer network. artists can make a living in this new environment. It is far from an impending disaster for our cultural production system. Theater, narrative, stories,